This map visualizes an indispensable global choke point. Every single day, roughly 20 to 21 million barrels of oil flow through the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz. That single maritime artery handles a full 1/5 of the entire world's crude supply. It is easy to watch the news and assume military maneuvers in the Middle East only matter to defense contractors and energy conglomerates. It feels distant. Now, imagine a sudden, severe military blockade, dropping a steel curtain across that exact waterway. 0 shipments in, 0 shipments out. Initially, global markets price in a short-term disruption. Traders assume diplomats will step in, make a deal, and resolve the standoff in a matter of days, keeping outright panic at bay. But if that resolution fails, a sustained closure becomes a direct tax on the global economy. The cost to manufacture, ship, and buy everyday household goods begins to inflate instantly. This chart shows the immediate, violent market reaction. Before a closure, crude sets at a manageable $80 a barrel. Within hours of a confirmed blockade, futures blow past $120 and quickly head toward $150. Researchers at the UN and Federal Reserve modeled the fallout of a sustained closure, forecasting that energy, transportation, and commodity prices will spike simultaneously. And crude oil is only part of the trapped energy. Massive volumes of liquefied natural gas, or LNG, which is natural gas cooled to a liquid state for transport, are completely cut off. Entire economies, specifically Japan, South Korea, and parts of Europe, rely heavily on these exact LNG shipments to keep their nations running. Because there is virtually no backup infrastructure to quickly replace a sudden loss of LNG, these missing ships translate into severe energy shortages and potential power grid failures, rather than just higher heating bills. Oil is a physical ingredient in modern manufacturing. Beyond transportation fuel, a barrel provides the petrochemicals to synthesize plastic. When crude prices spike, petrochemical costs surge, raising the price of every piece of plastic consumer packaging on grocery store shelves. The agricultural sector takes a massive hit, too. Manufacturing chemical fertilizers is a highly energy-intensive process. Expensive energy means expensive farming. These embedded costs compound. The price of the plastic wrapper goes up, the cost to grow the food inside it goes up, and the fuel to move it goes up. It triggers supply shock inflation across everything manufactured, packaged, or grown globally. The maritime freight network handles roughly 80% of physical trade by volume. When a choke point closes, shock waves travel through this entire global system. If ships cannot safely transit the strait, they must reroute. Detouring around the Cape of Good Hope adds 2 to 3 full weeks to a voyage between the Persian Gulf and Europe. The global tanker fleet has a fixed capacity in the short term. You cannot build new ships overnight. When massive detours tie up vessels for weeks on end, available capacity shrinks. Charter rates double and sometimes triple in a matter of days. Shipping companies absorb none of those overhead costs. They pass the massive freight bills straight down the line, supercharging the final retail price of every imported item. While markets currently assume a quick fix, the economic projections for a blockade lasting longer than 2 weeks move into territory the global economy hasn't seen in decades. This timeline maps the escalation. Days 1 through 5, prices spike on fear. As the first week ends, physical supply tightens. By day 15, nations watch their reserves dwindle. By day 30, inventories hit 0. You are facing genuine shortages. That 0 inventory threshold triggers a systemic panic. You see consumer hoarding, sweeping government export bans, and aggressive economic nationalism as countries scramble to secure whatever resources are left. Because modern global supply chains are deeply interdependent, a blockade stretching past 30 days triggers cascading economic failures. Analysts suggest the global fallout would easily surpass the energy crisis of the 1970s. Watch the local gas pump. It is your earliest warning system. When those numbers spike, hyperinflation on everything else is already locked in.